Good morning. I'm at the hardware store at the moment. Yesterday I purchased the wrong enclosure for the fuses that I got. I'm just in the aisle at the moment and I just wanted to show you the difference between it. So if you remember the one that I got, I think it was this one, it had a metal bar in which the fuses sit onto it. So it's actually these fuses here, and instead of having the spokes at the back, they've got them at the bottom. So it runs through here, completes the circuit with the spoke, and then comes out the bottom. That's why my one didn't work. So you connect one cable in there, your electrical device, and then at the bottom is where it goes to the main power source. So the one that I got was actually these ones, ceramic type fuse holders. So what I would need is one of these ones where it's got two separate spokes and there's no conductive metal in between them. So I will grab one of these and we'll continue on today. Okay, now that I have the correct housing for the fuses, I'm just double checking that it does fit. Okay, and there is no metallic pieces holding the top prong to the bottom prong. So I'm going to go ahead and connect up the one that we tested with yesterday, and once that is complete, then we will start installing the things like the ventilation fan and the water pumps and stuff like that. Actually, just with the bottom screws, they actually don't come off. I thought it might have just been the first one that I bought, but it's with this one as well. So I suspect this is because the way that it's designed, there's supposed to be a connecting plate. There's supposed to be a connecting plate between this one and the next circuit and the next circuit and the next circuit, to have the mains power. So what's connected to the battery, since that's what I'm using as mains. So it's just a flat piece, and I did see it at the hardware store. Okay, let's just pretend that this is a metal plate. It's got prongs that go up like this, and I believe that you're supposed to connect the bottom side up to this in series with the rest of the circuit breakers that you have, and then that plate, it has one cable running to the main power supply. So next time I'm not going to worry about it at this point, because I just remembered I need to actually cable it first before run a cable to all the electronics before I can actually hook it into this. So let's start adding the appliances and then we will duck up to the hardware store. I only bought one roll of cabling anyway, because I didn't know how much I would need, and I suspect I'll probably need a little bit more anyway. So for now, let's leave the circuit breaker and continue on with our work, and then we'll get back to it. So we'll go ahead and install the ventilation fan. So this is the ventilation fan that I've got. It's not huge, and there's a couple of reasons why I didn't go for a RV fan. One, my cabin area is nowhere near as big as an RV. This van is the same size as a sedan or a ute. It's just got extra cabin space, cargo space, sorry. And two, I don't think I'll need as much ventilation. The insulation's pretty good since I've tested it out. But the other thing is, I wanted to get this smaller one. As I've said, I'm very nervous to cut into the roof of the vehicle. So I wanted to get a smaller one, because if I do fuck this up, then I can just get a bigger fan to cut a hole out. So, you know, it gives me a second chance on installing a fan correctly. So this one is actually pretty cheap off eBay, whereas the RV fans can cost you know, $500 plus. So this one was $40, and a lot of the RV ones, the lower end RV ones, they didn't have any protection against rain. So if you had the vent open, it was also open to the rain. Whereas this one has a covering on it that protects it from any rain coming inside the vehicle while the fan is running. So this is another reason why I chose this one. I can have the ventilation even if it's raining. So there were quite a few legitimate reasons why I opted for this one specifically. So yesterday I did test out the fan because it was straight out of the box. I didn't have any way to test it, but now that I've got my battery system hooked up, I have tested it. So I'll just show you how I did that. So I've just connected the positive side to the battery, and the negative side to the terminal. So you can see there the fan is running. Off, on. So even now with my hand right next to it, I can feel that the airflow going through. So I'm happy with the power that it's got, and especially as well with the noise. So a lot of the RV ones, because they're quite big units, they're quite loud as well. This one is super quiet. Once the cover goes on, I don't think I'll hear it at all. So yeah, just a few things for you to think about if you are undertaking this kind of project. I'm going to do a practice run on a spare piece of plywood first. I will be cutting the hole with the jigsaw. This jigsaw came with a blade for cutting through metal. I did the cheapest one, and I didn't want to spend that much just for one cut. So I will do it with the jigsaw and see how it turns out on the plywood. If it turns out fine, then we'll just go ahead. But if not, then I'll have a look into buying the special piece. So I'm just gonna draw a circle around with the shape. Actually, I might just show you the underside of it. So these are the two pieces of the vent. So this side sits on top and this side mounts on the bottom. The bottom side does have a on-off switch and power level. And the switch also has the just up here, it has the connectors. So once this is mounted in on the top, then I can connect these pins to the terminals, and then run a cable from the terminals to the power system in the car. So let's give that a go and see how it turns out. Yeah, so what I did just there is to make sure that this side is the bigger size that I need to cut out. So this bottom piece, it goes in the middle of this piece here. So that it's no good cutting out a piece like this if this won't fit through it. So make sure that's the right size. Okay, so in order for me to use the jigsaw, I can't just cut in from a side. So the blades are only on one side, they only cut this way. I need to drill a pilot hole in it so that the blade can sit in there first. Okay, now I have my pilot hole. The blade does fit in there and I can start cutting. Just before I complete the cut, I'm going to show you what it looks like, just so that you're not cutting straight. There's curvatures that you need to follow to get that circular angle. So that's what it looks like. So kind of like a spiral, because if you cut it straight this way and then try to do a right angle straight away, the blade's not going to turn. You're going to have a loop out like this before you can get that angle that you want. I also did notice, so when I first started cutting, I had it on mid-speed, but it wasn't giving me the jigsaw kind of guides itself when you're cutting, but when I had it on that mid-speed, it wasn't precise enough. I slowed down the cutting blade in order to give me a more accurate cut, which you can actually see in this cut that I have done. So this is where I had the mid speed, and right along here you can see it's kind of straighter than the curve over here. So at this point is where I slowed down the speed and it gave me a better angle, whereas this is more straight. Okay, so now I've completed my cut. I cut right on the line, not on the inside because I knew I drew on the outside, but with the pencil as well, there is a tiny little bit of a gap, so which is why I cut straight on the line. The blade thickness I think should be enough to make up for that difference in the pencil size. So let's just check and see. Excellent. So that's not moving around too much. So I think that cut is fine. There is space between the edge of this top bit compared to the fan, where the fan sits, and that's so that you can put sealant and glue and stuff in there. So if it doesn't sit exactly perfect, like you don't want to be packing it down there, because otherwise then the glue won't adhere to the inside. So I'm happy with that cut. If you remember, after I did the insulation and put in the ceiling, there was sagging on this side because the insulation was pushing down on the plywood that I've used for the ceiling. So that, after I cut through, that there's no discrepancies with the location, I've just put a extra piece of plywood here and mounted it up with just extra pieces of wood to give it that flat curve. So I will be fixing that sagging issue a bit later when I put on a bracket here, but for now, because I don't want the hole to be cut, I don't want to have to recut the hole. I've just mounted these up for now. Okay, so with the hole, what I'm going to do is to drill the pilot hole from the bottom up. That way I know where the center is inside the cabin, and I can draw the circle on top. In order to do that, I need to work out where the middle of the ventilation fan is, and I know this isn't the most exact method, but I am just going to, so there's two markers here, and that is a midpoint. It is running through the center of the fan. So what I'm just going to do is to measure the distance. That's 11.7. So half of that should be about 6.5. So when I have my pilot hole, I can just measure 6.5 and put the edge of that on that 6.5 mark. Okay, I'm back up on the roof. Just while I'm up here, the rust conversion that we did on the first day, it seems to have gone well. There's no excess rust, there's no signs of further rusting. Yeah, so it's come up really well. With the ventilation fan, so I'm just about to get started on that. Maybe here. So I'm just about to get started on that. I'm just going to double check and make sure that I have all the equipment here, because I don't want to be going up and down halfway through the cut. So let's theoretically run through this. So I am going to measure 6.5 from the hole and then put one of the sides on that hole and trace around it. Once I have my circle, then I'm going to start cutting with the metal blade. So just with this metal blade, you can see it's a lot finer than the timber blade. Once I've finished cutting it, I will file down the edges. I also have the safety equipment here, one because I don't want any metal shards flinging in my eye, and the mask is for the insulation that's on the other side. So the insulation is made from glass, and I don't want to be breathing that in. Okay, so once I have made my cut, I am going to file it down and then put a coat of paint on it so that the water doesn't get to it. And then I will be sealing off the insulation with the thermal tape and scissors to cut with. And once that hole is prepped, then I can go and start securing it in and sealing it from water. Okay, so that sounds like the whole process to me. It would be nice to have someone else's opinion, but let's get started on it, and hopefully I won't have to keep going up and down the ladder. Okay, so my measurements are wrong. Let me double check that and see what's going on. So it is 11.7, but I just realized half of 11 is 5.5, not 6.5. So let's measure 5.5. Okay, so that is looking a lot better. I can see that it is touching that 5.5 mark all the way around. But as you may have noticed, one of those markers is on the ridge. And rather than cutting into that ridge, I am going to place it in the middle here. So unfortunately my pilot hole where I want it centered did not work out, but it's not going to be a problem because that pilot hole, so long as it's in the middle of that circle where it's going to get. Okay, so I'm finding it very difficult to maneuver this jigsaw with this railing in the way. I also noticed, well, the other big problem with it is the metal keeps flapping up and down. There's nothing solid that it's grabbing onto on the other side. So I am just going through it very slowly. It doesn't shake around as much when you're just shaving off little bits by little bit. So I think this will actually take me quite a while. Okay, so counterintuitively, I've had to turn the speed of the blade up. That seems to cut through a lot better without shaking it so much. So I've made half a cut, and I will complete the rest now. Okay, so I've finished making the cut. As I did mention before, it was counterintuitive that the higher speed of the blade was actually more accurate. Timber slow, metal fast, apparently. Maybe that's why the blades are a lot shorter. But I'm happy with the cut. It looks right. Let's test out the vent and see if it fits. Yeah, so that's sitting fine there. It's not going all the way through because the silver wrap is still there. So the nerve-wracking part is over. I am just going to wash my hands and my arms and my legs because there is glass and metal all over me. Actually, I did notice the selfie stick. Let me just dismount you. The selfie stick, because it's got magnets at the bottom, it's actually collected all the metal shavings. So I'll give that a wash down. So just before I do that though, I will file down the sides. That way I don't have to redo it and I can brush it all off in one go. Now that I have my cut, I'm just going to sweep the area for any loose shavings, and then spray the paint on, just to seal any loose metal. apparently that's the black paint. So let me go get the white paint. I can't seem to find the white paint, so I'm just gonna duck up to the hardware store and get some more. The battery needs charging on the camera anyway, so this will be a good break. I'm back from the hardware store. I got some white paint. I could not find any of that conduit cable. Sorry, the conduit plate. So I think I will just wire it myself with the terminals. Yeah, there's I might run it in parallel rather than series, and I'll go through the differences between the two a bit later on when we actually do wire it. So let's continue on with the ventilation. Yeah, it's I just scoffed down lunch, so it is about midday. So we will carry on. Mention they didn't have the same color as the one that I purchased previously, so I just had to get plain white, but I'm not worrying about this area too much because you won't be able to see it anyway. But yeah, there's a huge difference in the color there. But that white actually does look really nice. Maybe I'll do the whole car in that. So this paint says it takes 15 minutes to dry. What I might do in the meantime is actually cut into the wood, the ceiling, and seal off the insulation. So I should be able to do it from up here, so let's give it a go. It looks like I'm gonna have to reapply the paint anyway, because when I put the jigsaw down it made scratches again. So I've cut the hole through the plywood. I'm just gonna put the bottom end of the fan in to make sure that that hole is correct, and after that then I'll seal it off, spray paint it, and then take off that seal, and then we will seal off the insulation with the thermal tape. Would have liked to use the rotary sander on this, but there seems to be some parts missing, so I'm just going to use the detail sander. Cool. So that fits on. I am going to have to repaint though, which is annoying. I'm just putting a temporary barrier here, so that when I spray down with the spray paint, it doesn't go all over my flooring. re-sprayed the area. Just while that's drying, I'm going to seal off the insulation. So at the moment there's the bare metal, and then the insulation, and then the silver wrap, and then the plywood. So I'm going to be putting the thermal tape between the silver wrap and the metal body. Now that I have the insulation sealed off, I'm just going to do a dry run before I glue it down. So I'm going to put this on, put the underside on, make sure everything's cut correctly, and then I will seal it in. Okay, so that has come through quite far, a lot further than I wanted it to. So let's just see if we can put this directly on to that piece. Okay, so since I can't attach this directly to the bent part, the top bit, what I am going to do is, I've noticed that there's some markings along the side here. There's like ridges. I'm assuming this is a pre-measured cut line. So what I might do is cut one of those and see if I can mount it. If not, I've still got all this space to work with. Yeah, let's give that a try. Okay, I've sanded back cut and sanded back the plating, connector plating. So let's see if that fits. Yes, it does. Happy that worked. Okay, now that I have my cut all measured, I've measured the bottom, I'm happy to seal this down now. So I'm going to be using two different types of sealants. There are screw holes for this, but I don't want to screw it down. So I'm going to be using liquid nails instead, which is the Sikabond, and also the wet area waterproofing sealant. this one seems to have dried over. I can't push any out. I will duck up to Bunnings and get some more. Okay, I'm back from the hardware store and picked up some roof and guttering silicone sealant. So let's just double. Yep, that's sitting right. Okay, so will we do this? Let's put it on the edge of this. Some of the sealant has come out, which is fine. I'm just going to add some more around the edges just to give it a waterproof seal all the way around. I have done that twice in 2 layers, so a third one should be sufficient to waterproof it. Okay, I think we're done with that side. So as you can see, the silicone is all the way around. I might clean it back a little bit once it's dried, but for now, while it's drying, let's go to the underside and see how that looks. Okay, it's looking alright actually. Okay, so can you see that? Yes. Yeah, so it is looking alright. There's enough space for me to mount that underside bit on. Yes, I did pull the cable through. Okay, so we will let that dry. And then tomorrow I will check and make sure that the waterproofing actually worked before I close that off. Otherwise I'll just add some more on. So it is getting pretty late, so I might pack up and call it quits. Yeah, I think that should be enough for today. So what did we end up doing today? So we got the right fuse box, the circuit breakers I mean, and we tested that they worked, and we also mounted the ventilation and tested that that works as well. So tomorrow we will check the waterproofing and might get started on the roofing. So I want to put some decking on the roof. Actually I will have to put decking on the roof because I'm no longer having the water tank in here. I'm going to need to mount the water tank up on the roof. So yeah, let's get started on that tomorrow. Hopefully it will take, I'm guessing 2 to 3 days. But yeah, let's aim at getting the decking done before the end of the week. Yeah. Alright. Thanks guys for joining me again. Once again, if you did like this or you found it useful, helpful, hit the subscribe button.